Welcome to part 2 of the Viking chairside radio. It's made by Electrohome, number 4744, built in 1947. Part 1 was picking up the radio and checking it over and see if it worked, and it did work. This will be part 2. We're gonna go through all the components, see if they're operational, see if we can improve on it. We'll check resistors, capacitors, change all the capacitors, and improve the cabinet, make it look a little better, and totally restore this unit. Here we go. We'll get right into it. Okay, I just did another thorough check over of the Viking 4744, and just taking a few things apart so I can get started. Tubes are out, bulbs are out, just some preliminary things that are attached. This indicator here is 4 bolts taken off. One bolt is missing, which is odd. So there's kind of bare bones. Next, probably I'll get rid of this cable and this speaker wires. They're in fairly good shape, except for right at the chassis hole here. Looks like they're starting to fray a bit, so to figure out what I'm gonna do there. But yeah, just slowly taking it apart and keep you updated. Should let you know what I wrote down for my observations on this thing. This cord for selecting the band, I've taken off, put in a drawer. It needs repaired. Both pilot lights or bulbs need replaced. Both these bulbs are blown. Selector switch here, yeah, we talked about that before. It's jammed, it's looser now. Not sure what else I can do with that. It's so scratched and marred up here from previous use or misuse. What else on the list here? There's a layer of this. I want to get this cleaned up as much as possible. Last chassis I didn't really do any other than just wiping it, but I do want to see if I can get some of that corrosion off. Of course, remove all the caps. Paint on here, they'll need to be replaced. That's all from heat of the bulbs. And of course this power cord. But we'll look at these, see if they need replaced, and anything else. I'm sure we'll test all these resistors. I'm going to replace all the caps anyway, but we'll test the resistors and see what else we can do. Of course, lubricate all the potentiometers. Put that on the list. Okay, first step, I cut this cord off just to get rid of it. I'm just going to leave those connections so I know where they go. This speaker wire is, I'm going to remove that so it's out of my way. And plus, look at these frayed edges here. So I just made some notes, see where they connect, and then I'll remove that, get that out of my way. And then I'll make a sketch of all the capacitors and where they go, and we'll put in an order, and also test the resistors that are in there and see if they're still up to spec. So that's kind of the first step here. Okay, just been jotting down all these caps so they're all looked after, highlighting as I go. I got some good information on this Viking 4744 and had a good site that actually has a lot of these Viking schematics on it. Can't remember the name, Pacific something. I'll text it in right now. So if anybody's interested in finding radio schematics, they have a good assortment, not just Viking. But okay, so yeah, I got these all jotted down. Went through material list, was visual schematic, and on the chassis, I'm gonna check. Now I'm gonna go with a meter and check all these resistors and see what they're at, and see if there's anything too far out. I guess just watching Shango 066, he was saying, I mean, these radios will work even if these are way out on percentage. So I guess there's a bit of tolerance there, but we'll check them. Last radio, there was a couple that were a little off, but not too much. So I just left them as is, and it works fine. So okay, so carrying on, I'm just going to do my checks with multimeter on these resistors. All right. Okay, I've been changing capacitors. I did some testing of the capacitors earlier. They're of the electrolytics anyway. These ones here in this can that you can barely see where my finger is. There's two in there. This one, and this one's a ground. But anyway, this I'll show you here. So there's a can right here. This one. There's two electrolyte capacitors in there, and the connections for those are right here. So I'm just in the midst of testing those, and they actually test not too bad. I'm going to replace them anyway. I just want to update you on this capacitor, changing. It's not rocket science, but you just have to remove these old wax capacitors and replace them with the modern ones. And these are the modern ones here. I'll show you my little shipment that came in. So we have these orange drops. I've been ordering orange drops exclusively for capacitors, and then these are electrolytics. But they're all from Antique Electronics Supply. Great supplier. They're definitely, designed for antique radio, supplying components for antique radios. So they've been good. Just been going over my notes here of what I need replaced in their location. So those two highlighted have been replaced, and these are the two here. And I'll show the original ones that came out. These ones here. So they're a 0.05. Here, let's move this. 0.05 at, trying to look through the camera, 0.05 at 400 volts. And this one is 0.05. Hang on one moment. 0.05 at 600 volts. And these are both 600 volt capacitors. They're a 0.05, and they're both at 600. I didn't need to go down to a 450 for the other one. And my connections here, there's a connection here. So I J-hooked both ends, so I cut the original out. J-hooked both ends and soldered it. And I got advice to actually do that, not go right to this post where it connects. And you might do more damage heating that up, overheating it, than to just trim off the lead. If you can see it, trim off the lead here, J hook it and solder it, and then same with this one here. If you can see that, this one just goes to ground. If you follow my pointer here, it just goes and solders to the base of the chassis, or the chassis, and then goes up the capacitor. I just trimmed off the lead, J hooked them both, and then soldered it. Again, that was from advice from a seasoned guy, because you end up overheating these points and where the solder is, and just making more havoc for yourself and damage. And you need a really hot soldering iron, and mine's not. Mine's limited, so I need to upgrade my soldering iron anyway. In the future, not right now. So I'm in the process of changing this electrolytic. So this point here, so this point here had a wire connected to this spot on the on this tube socket. So this one I did take a chance and see if I can heat up this tube socket point and not overheat it, and it was successful. I got this removed, and it was this wire here. So that wire was connected from this point on this tube socket to this point of the capacitor, and that is a 40 microfarad capacitor. And I couldn't order a 40 microfarad capacitor, so I ordered a 33. My light's blinking. 33 and a 10, so it's 43 at 450 volts. And paralleled them, put a little shrink tubing on here, connected directly to that terminal, and then this end will go to ground, and I will solder it to this ground point. I haven't soldered it yet, so this solder point needs soldered yet. But I have secured it to the chassis. So one thing, you don't want these capacitors, floating around, and these can be some of the heavier capacitors you put in. So I just used, I'll show you here, this silicone, it's GE silicone 2. It's just in a handy tube here. Got advice from, Mr. Carlson's lab, and that's what he uses to secure his capacitors. So you don't really have a spot where you can tie it down physically. You can glue it, so that's fairly secure. That's really not going anywhere. So this is just an update. I'll keep going. I'll remove the rest of these and secure them to the chassis. Again, some of these leads do need some covering on it, so that's why I covered this lead, some shrink tube, and I'll shrink it down properly, just so nothing doesn't accidentally get bumped and gets shorted against something else. And this one's kind of floating a little bit. Actually, I'll glue that with adhesive and put down to the chassis. This one is fairly secure. Okay, something else I did was this capacitor here. I'm going to eliminate this capacitor and put in this modern one. This modern 22, keep going, 22 microfarad. And this original was a 20, so I'm going to take these. There's 4 connections here, so 4 connections have to come up to a positive side of this capacitor. So it seems a lot, and you're just going to have some floating point where all these connect. So I would like another one of these these terminal spots, but I didn't have one, so I relocated one. So I'm going to use this one here, if you can see that. So I took that from another part of the chassis. Okay, let me explain. So this portion, it was actually cut off here. It was originally attached to this end. Okay, so you actually had, on this terminal strip, you had 1, 2, 3 points, and it was riveted down to the chassis. So I removed that rivet, cut that end of the board off, relocated it here. So I used that screw from the transformer and placed that new terminal strip here, and now it's independently floating. It's not grounded out or anything, so I can use that as a connection point for all 3 of these wires and this resistor and this new capacitor. So there's, you know, you need somewhere to tie them all in together so it looks somewhat proper. So that's what I've done. So in the future I'll actually order these. You can order these off of, I'm sure you can. I've noticed other guys had parts of them floating around, so I'm sure you can order those, and those are handy if you're adding in additional components to upgrade these old radios. So that's my story for now. So I'm gonna keep going here and then give you an update as I continue on with replacing these capacitors. If you're curious about the markings that I put on this new capacitor, it is to indicate the foil side of this capacitor. They're not marked when they're manufactured now. They used to. If you look at these older ones, and maybe I can move them into the light here. See, there's a black band there. You probably can't read it, but it does say foil side. I wonder if I can find one that shows it. Yeah. I don't know if you can read it. It says outside foil. So that would be the side that goes to the negative part, or the part that hits the chassis. Yeah, I'm not going to go to great length to tell you why, but that's just the way it is, and it totally makes sense. But anyway, you can look that up. But I mark that with just a black marker, and you can tell that by using a guitar amp. And some of these capacitors are very hard to identify what side is what. Okay, so I won't turn the amp on right now, but you can identify what side of this capacitor is the foil side. So if you take your leads out of your input here, and I don't have a large input cable for this guitar amp, so I just got it back into like this 3.5 millimeter. It works the same. There's a ground on here, and then the tip is basically your signal. So if you place this capacitor with its leads on the ground, ground, and then the tip, you'll get a hum by especially placing your fingers here, and you kind of use yourself as an antenna. Well, you do actually. And then you place your leads here, and you can get a certain tone out of the amplifier. And then you put it down, flip it over. Again, you're gripping it like this, and you touch this side. And whatever side is very low, it's not loud. Some of these really small capacitors are hard to tell, and you got to listen. Put your ear up to the amp and listen, but you will get a tone coming out of here, and then you flip it over and you get another tone, one that kind of just deadens out and there's less sound or less distortion. That will be this grounding side, grounding point of the input will indicate the foil side or the shield side of this capacitor. So whatever side you put it on, if you get a nice, like, lower tone or more quiet, that will be the proper shielding side. So this ground will match up to this kind of ground or foil side. So that's how to identify that. Again, it's not the easiest thing to listen to or listen for, but do your best. These are made so they're not polarized. You could put them in either way, but the growing, I don't know if it's a trend or the line of thinking is there's still a foil side on here. It's just never identified by the manufacturer. And to do this properly or put them in a component properly, you need to identify that. So that's what I'm doing. And FYI, I've listened to another guy who had an antique radio, and he identified all the the shield side and purposely put them in the wrong way, and tested the radio and tested it with the capacitors in the proper way, and he found no difference whatsoever with the performance of the radio. So is this necessary? I don't know. My first radio, I think I identified one, but the rest I put in there without identifying the foil side, and radio is fine. I don't know. So I don't know if this is a trend, wives' tale, absolute truth. If you talk to or listen to Mr. Carlson's lab, he is like very anal about this. You need to identify that, and I mean, he's a smart guy. But maybe it depends on the component you're putting it in. I don't know. Depends on maybe the manufacturer or the original manufacturer of the radio. So anyway, food for thought. Okay, just removing this capacitor, and got to change that out as well as this resistor, and they both tie into this terminal. I'm talking about this because I went against my own rules about putting lots of heat and trying to desolder these components right at the tube socket terminal here, and if you can tell, it's well overheated. You're just I'm creating more problems for myself. I've actually slowly been cleaning it up with a little bit of alcohol. It's I mean, actually it was worse than it is now, but it's just not good. You're overheating this tube socket, and not very wise. Okay, that's the best I can do as far as cleaning it. Lesson learned though. Okay, focus. Okay, yeah, lesson learned though. You can see how there's a heat effect zone that is discoloring, and probably discoloring and not very structural sound of now this tube socket base plate. I don't know what that is. I think it's just fiberglass, heat resistant fiberglass. But anyway, lesson learned. Just try not to do that. In some cases you have to, but if you can avoid it, don't be overheating. Theory is you can, if you have a hot enough iron, you can get on there and get off there quick, and you're not harming anything. But with kind of a low heat iron that I have now, I'm constantly having that heat generated into the terminal, and it's just not good for the socket. So, but it cleaned up pretty good, and the joint itself is still sound, so it's still going to make contact with the tube pin. So, well, guess what? Yeah, I did exactly what I didn't want to do. This terminal piece broke off when I was trying to put the new capacitor on. Well, it is true. You put too much heat on this thing, and it is not good for the socket. Well, this, I can't even grab it now. This piece just broke off. Now, through a lot of nonsense of my own, it's broke off. Damn it. Okay, now I gotta get creative. Let me think on this. Okay, here's the correction that I made. Everyone's gonna give me crap for this, but so where we're at, this tab had broken off, and we needed to somehow make this connection to this pin on this tube socket. So this tab that was here, I soldered it against the pin. This little, I don't know what you call it, the metal that squeezes around the pin. I soldered it to the back side of that. So this tab is now fully connected. It's just a solder joint. It's not mechanical. I know it's not recommended, but I don't have a new tube socket to replace, and this is also a test. Maybe this won't work. Maybe this is a really short life span of this connection, but we're gonna try it. So again, soldered on this tab. Resistor and the capacitor go both to that tab. So after this, I definitely learned my lesson. I'm not going to desolder any of these old solder joints from these tabs on this tube socket. So that's my fix. Hope it all works out. Okay, just a little update. Still putting in new capacitors, replacing the old, going from what do I say, right to left. So I'm making my way this way. Okay, it is all done. It's all done. The capacitors have all been changed out, and the resistors. So it's just a matter of putting speaker wires back in, putting a new main cord in, and testing it out. Okay, just about to test it here now. We got this speaker wiring hooked up. Check my notes, make sure it went in the right spot. And just hook up that speaker. This is the original speaker. Put this connection together here. If I can figure it out. There we go. That harness there is just a little offset to it, so you can tell how to put it together. Might need two hands. Okay, I think that's good. Okay, just gonna double check my work. I've done this probably, it's probably more like a triple, quadruple check my work on this. So I put some tie wraps on either side of this chassis. So the speaker wiring is stays in one place. And I will replace this main cord. Okay, so together, got this cord back on, or new cord I should say, and I made sure I ran the hot to the switch and not to the ground, but the ground goes right to the transformer, so I think that still gives us isolation from that hot, so I want to do that. So I put these pilot bulbs on. These are brand new, so I can put that one in. good. And I turned this thing upside down and shook it, so if any wire trims or any little scrap pieces of wire or debris would fall out of here and not accidentally short anything. So should be good. So here we go. I'm gonna plug it in. Switch is off on the radio. I'm gonna plug it into my dim bulb rig here. Okay. You can see it, so let's turn it on. Huh, hell if I put some bulbs in it. Some vacuum tubes, hang on. Alright, let's do this together here. So this top corner, 6F, 6G, 6F, 6G, goes in there. Okay, what's this one? 5Y4. 5Y4 goes in third spot there. Okay, it's in. We have here 6SA7. 6SA7. It's right there. Next to the first IF. Okay, right here. Okay, I should have said, okay, let's orientate this layout just like the radio, so I get mixed up. Getting ahead of myself here. So it's the next tube, 6SK7. 6 Sierra Kilo 7 goes right there. So that's that there. These don't have the nice glass tube where you can see the element. Okay, 6J5. 6J5 is right there, goes in the middle along the left side. 6SQ7 goes in the bottom here. 6SQ7 in. We have one bulb left. I left it to the end because vacuum tube, not a bulb. It's just slang. Oh, it does say 6F, 6G. So that's the other 6F, 6G there. So put that there. Of course. Almost there. Oh. Okay. All right. Okay. Lamps are on. Everything's plugged in. Kind of want to peek underneath while it's plugged in, but let's just do a visual here. Let's just look at the top here and see if we get any noise out of it or any decent sound. So okay, I'm plugging it in. Main switch is off, so we can Turn this on. Huh? Something. Okay, I smell no burning, no nothing. Oh. Okay, oh, these lights aren't grounded out to the chassis. Okay, there they are. Getting poor connection, but they work. Same with this one. There we go. Okay. Now we get some reception here. Oh sure, furnace kicked in. Hang on. Let's turn it up. Getting no reception. None whatsoever. Tone control seems to work pretty good. I see, we're in a selector mode here. Hang on. Selectors, phono, broadcast, and shortwave. Okay. Ah, no wonder it's on phono. Okay, let's take it off of phono. Phono, shortwave. No. Shortwave, broadcast, phono. Oh.
Other locations, so that in other provinces they have similar kinds of
Oh.
clear that with.
I haven't actually cleaned this that much. I think I still need to clean the contacts in here.
The cases that are currently in those. And which of the contemporary moment. What kind of literature are we talking? Books or? Good question.
There's no antenna, but we're definitely getting some AM stations. Not sure why. Usually they're static and then it tunes in. Why are we getting that abrupt?
We're transmitting the virus outside of the.
I don't know why there's so much static like that. Oh, that's loud. Turn that down.
Yes, 1260. Hey, you know what? I know that Chip wasn't really enamored.
That station comes in good.
Chip, we might replay Chip in the next hour of the show for those who missed it.
Don't need antenna for that.
I'm actually quite excited for the.
I think I'm at the top of the band there, yeah.
Pretty exciting end-to-end space.
Turn up a little bit more.
Then you kind of get sucked into skill on both sides, and you're going to have chances, and you're going to capitalize on some. You're not going to capitalize on others. Now the Oilers kind of gifted Winnipeg for sure. And if they eliminate those, like if Winnipeg creates chances just by working hard and doing stuff, I don't have an issue with it. When you're gifted, that's a little bit of a concern. No question about it. So we will see where that goes from here. Now we do have to get to Struds On, brought to you by Next Gen Transportation, a heavy haul transport provider in the industry. Gave themselves a great birthday present by moving the longest blade ever, 74 meters. That's a wind turbine blade.
Very sensitive.
Check it out next.
Maybe the banana slicer is bent and it's doing that.
The Jason Greger Show. Drugs on. Draymond Green. So I know Draymond's a character, and he's always
we
talking.
Must be really close to
with Charles Barkley, and something
they call that transmitter
the game.
tower.
And he can be a handful.
That comes in like super good.
And he lets people know what it's all about. But
especially compared to everything else.
I think he really.
So you have to turn it up for every other channel.
If they were isolating in their own home, that we would need to treat it. Would be interesting.
That's just one spot that's doing that. See if we can spray that or something. Did you hear that? Got louder with that spray, listen. Oh, the reception's gone.
You use it with the cup?
Huh. I don't know if this is good or bad.
Black on the prairie.
The initial spray, definitely liked it.
Or whatever. And then there are some cases where both sides are wrong. But it was a really interesting conversation. I think it's about 4 minutes. But that was the best part of it. Connor, what are your thoughts on that? Player asking for trades versus team saying, we are going to move this player.
Okay, I'm going to grab this 3-in-1 oil. It needs a little drop in the hinges here anyway.
The team is in a position of strength. Now, I don't know if I agree with a player being fined for, openly saying you want to trade. Maybe there's some conduct there that hurts the team or hurts the organization. I think ideally you want to see it both sides where it's handled professionally. Maybe kind of like a Patrick Laine, where you'd like to see a trade, but until then he's going to go out there and do everything he can. But I think at the end of the day, as a player, you have to know that the team holds the power.
This set must not have a AVC automatic volume control. Sorry, AVC, start over. AVC automatic volume control. depending on how close you're to the transmitter, well, obviously the volume will increase. Earlier sets you had to manually adjust that, and then over time there was a capacitor put in so you wouldn't have to constantly adjust the control. It didn't matter reception, the volume would stay the same. But this set doesn't have AVC.
I mean, you know.
There's no volume control there. You have to turn it up.
Delete.
Gosh, that's wow.
Like the crazy. Yeah, I'm having a hard time just getting through Ray Donovan, let alone, you know, like.
Of course, there has been an increase in number, and as I mentioned, Alberta Health Services is working closely
Very
with
sensitive.
local primary care networks and
It's
other
actually hard
partners
to tune
make
in.
sure that support.
Just slight.
And following.
It's getting better. That contact spray is drying up. Hey, let's see. Let's just do a wire as an antenna. Connect it to here. Yeah, right here. Okay. It helps. One thing, though, that this has excellent. Oh, hang on, I thought I had something. This is excellent output to the speaker. Excellent amplification. So, turn it down. Let's go back to AM. That's going to be too loud.
Nah.
I mean, this is an ideal channel, but excellent amplification
There's people sleeping in running cars just to stay warm because they have
and clarity.
zero electricity and zero heat in a lot of places, and you know their houses aren't built like they don't have. A lot of them don't have a fireplace because they don't ever need it, right? So you know you think about it. If you have a wood burning fireplace, at least you could generate some heat that way. So it is definitely a crazy time. So Dallas, well, the season they had a lot of their games delayed due.
Okay, excellent application, good output to the speaker,
You know, this is a bit of a
limited AM,
what do they call it?
no shortwave broadcasts in my territory, but it's all good. This is the best you're going to get with a set nowadays.
There's that type of situation they're waiting for. So the kids were out of school.
So it's good, success. Let's put the rest of it back together. Also, another bonus, nothing started on fire, no smoke and flame, nothing abnormal. I believe I put everything back together just the way it was, just with brand new capacitors and brand new resistors. So life is good. Life is good. Okay, this thing's starting to wig out. Been going for what, 20 minutes? Thing's wigging out. I think it's, so I've been moving some adjustments, touching some vacuum tubes, and I think it's this one here. Yeah.
Visit alberta.ca/isolation. Protecting lives and lives goes hand in hand. A message from the government of Alberta.
He's back. Brace yourself. Last week tonight, John Oliver returns to Crave. Very nice indeed. An unhinged pundit. I think aviator glasses should only be worn by hot pilots, cute babies, and cute baby pilots. For unhinged times. I believe I have something you're looking for, world. And it's called HBO's Last Week Tonight with John Oliver.
I'm not sure if that's recommended, but
What is injury law?
How long do I have to file a claim?
Are my injuries serious enough to hire a lawyer?
Will my rates go up? There are so many questions around auto insurance and injury law. James H. Brown and Associates, Alberta Injury Lawyers, have the real answer to all your auto injury law questions. The precedent-setting team at James H. Brown and Associates is here. No question is too big or too small.
let me shut this off and we'll look at it. Okay, I sprayed with contact cleaner and plugged it back in. If there's any change. Let's put the antenna back on.
420 TSN 1260 as we mentioned. McDonald's. Sure. Stop in right now and you get the spicy Szechuan chicken or the ghost pepper
Yeah,
chicken. And they
some
have their spicy McChicken challenge is going on. One of those spice in your palate. Check it out right now at McDonald's. But many people felt like without Jonathan Taze and without Kirby Doc that this was going to be a complete rebuild. Heck, the organization
pulled up
came out
on
and
it.
said they were in a rebuild.
That's
But as
better
I've always argued,
reception.
in a rebuild, you can't tell the coaches, you can't tell the players not to try hard. It's virtually impossible. And so far, things are going well for them. As we go out to Chicago from NBC Sports.
Against Howard Zinn. Personal animus.
Okay, that's better again. So there is an issue with the tube socket or this tube, but it's probably a tube socket because I had that issue that kind of bodged terminal on one of those pins. So yeah, I'll eventually have to replace that socket. Anyway, it's better now. Just adjusted that tube, so.
Calgary. Yes, tomorrow from the Alberta Stockton
Good.
Coalition says.
Okay, you know that socket that's needs replaced. Oh my gosh, I'm getting sparks coming out of it on pin 4, I believe. Pin 4. So power's not on, but right around here, this pin here, sparks coming out of it as I turn it on. So let me turn it on. It's pin 5 that time. I know I put contact cleaner in there, but it doesn't look like it likes that. We'll try it again. Yeah, pin 5 again. Oh, now there's nothing. Maybe it's just burning off contact cleaner. Okay. Okay, I forgot to take pictures or film this, but on this cabinet, I got it on its side now. Back, these corners are all loose, separated. There was like a 1/4-inch gap here. That's now glued and screwed. And same with this bottom corner. And some of these this other corner, there's no screw in there, actually just that nail. So I put a screw in there. Dab of glue in this in the hole, and the same with this one. So just trying to tighten it up a little bit and make it more secure. And any of these other screws, I just put a screwdriver in there just to make sure they're snug. So It's all good. Cleaned it again. I brought it downstairs after the cleaning of the paint overspray that was on this thing. Under this bright light, seen even more. So, scrubbed it again. The magic eraser. These magic erasers are not all the same. I think I was definitely using the generic knockoff one, and this one performs so much better. So get the real magic eraser. It'll save you a lot of time and grief. So, okay, not sure what else to do with this. Maybe put a little oil. I'm not a woodworker, but make it a little more presentable, but not wreck it. So in case a true woodworker will finish it properly. All right, continue on with this.
Ryan Fitzpatrick still wants to play. He's won some games the last couple of years, so they're perfect.
Okay, it's installed.
You're not going to get Deshaun Watson because
I should have showed the dial cord I put on. Well, that was a nightmare. I think I have 3 knots in it. It's just temporary, but it's on. It's functional.
On Dak or Deshaun, which one are you more fatigued over?
Lights are mounted. They're on. So let's take a look at it. It's turned out pretty good. Let me shut the light off. Okay, maybe not. Let me turn it. There's some light on it. The indicator's good, nice and well lit up. Again, that back black portion needs sprayed when it warms up. But your on switch, your volume.
On Freddie and Fitzsimmons on ESPN Radio, kind of adding to the fatigue because that's what I'm going to do in this situation. Ian Fitzsimmons and I talked about this last night. The whole leverage move for dummies. The book that Jerry Jones is reading right now is Cowboys owner regarding this. You know this league.
So there's your phono switch, broadcast, and shortwave. This switch I had to loosen up. It's actually, I think I loosened it up too much. There's a little detent, brass or copper detent that fits in this switch, and I just pried it a little bit just so it wasn't so tight, because this was an issue with the previous owner. I could tell the stem of that potentiometer was all chewed up, so I made sure it was loosened. It was almost too loose. You could almost hard to find the detent where that switch is, but that's good. Your tuning's pretty sensitive. There should be, yeah, there should be 1 channel left on the top here. Sweeping the dial here, see if we can find. There should be. Yeah, there's the Shine or Christian channel. There should be.
I just know the nature of God. The nature of
yeah, that
God
comes in really well. That's the second best station, I guess, in the area.
Terminating, for example, of 2.3% to 23.
I believe that's the country station. Just on an ad there.
Resources close to 819 of 3.5%.
Comes in pretty good.
Doing well, the commodities moving.
There's a coil. It's a bit of an antenna in here. If I can. Here, let me shed some light on it. Turn the light on now.
$100 US a gigajoule. So prices are spiking in this unusual event, especially epitomized by what's happening in Texas.
Here's this antenna here. It wraps around the cabinet.
So natural gas moving higher, oil moving higher. It's above $60.
Like a coil comes back. I just have the one lead set up.
Gold got hit pretty hard today.
I'm not
down $30, $17.93 US.
sure if I need that.
And silver was
I'm
quiet
gonna
down
try
to
grounding that.
27.30. U.S. announced that to close a trade.
See if it comes in better or not.
Stocks to note: Air Canada 4.5%, 23.42. Markets just think you're getting closer and closer to the money.
And I did check the voltage, all the voltages. I went through the schematic, and they're all a little high, which I would assume, I guess, because our line voltage seems high from when this radio came out. So whether that's true or not, somebody can correct me.
This evening's program touched me so nicely.
It's good radio, picks up quite a few
I hopped into my icy cold car at 9:20.
stations.
Snapped on your show for my drive home after my flight. And I had the privilege of hearing Amazing Grace's letter to you. With respect for her.
It's like all the talk stations have better transmitters than any music station. Okay, it's at the bottom of the dial. I did set that indicator the way it's asks you to set it when it's on the chassis itself, but I'll have to tune into a station and see if these actually these kilohertz are actually lining up properly.
Coming into this tournament, it's not how I had originally imagined my first.
Yeah, nice radio. Like it a lot. Still a couple things to do. Maybe permanently fix that dial cord, as well as there's a couple mounting screws in here. I don't have permanent because I didn't have the right size, but I'll grab a couple of those. There's just two mounting screws that come through the wood here that fasten it to the cabinet. And there's also, also the alignment, which I don't know how to do. Maybe I'll learn that in the future. Give all these radios an alignment test. I don't have a oscilloscope or signal generator or anything right now, so most likely need those before I can go forward with that. But baby steps, I get to learn these things.
Hi, I'm Aaron Chalmers.
So, cabinet was glued, screwed back together, oiled up a little bit. Looks a lot better than it was. I'm going to turn that down. New cords, or main cord, new capacitors, few resistors, all the original tubes. Been finding these radios with all very good shape. I think I have 3 or 4 now, just picking them up and locally and learning them, and they all seem to not have been touched at all, not molested in any way. So it's good for me. So it's nice to learn right from how the factory put it together. And of course, I've adjusted it, but I've just replaced capacitors and resistors, so it's not a big deal. And I've been taking good notes. So if I ever sell it, pass it on, I can sell documents with it, and they'll know exactly how it was originally. So anyway, if I don't do anything else, to this cabinet or radio, this is it for this video. Oh, there is one thing. I didn't oil these knobs here. Yeah, so that's it. Other than oil those these control knobs, make it look a little better. I don't know, these cigarette burns, maybe they give it character. I don't know. You can tell there's to me there's an ashtray sitting here with a cigarette in it, and here's just a cigarette just laying there on the cabinet. But it's got character. All right, gang. Thanks for watching. that.